What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over my top 3 ideas for The Last of Us Part 2 DLC, or generally where I think the DLC for this game could go, if there is some. Now, there's no guarantee, and really that's kind of a video on its own. There's absolutely no guarantee they do DLC for The Last of Us Part 2. We know, obviously, it went that way with The Last of Us. Obviously, they did Left Behind, which was a, functional, like a 2-hour, kind of like what we would have expected back then for a DLC. Then with Uncharted, obviously we had Uncharted 4, and then Uncharted Lost Legacy, which started as a DLC, had a couple different ideas of what they could do for it, which is kind of how I'm going to be explaining this one. And then obviously it got so big that they just decided, we're going to do basically its own game. It was a 6, 7, 8-hour game, came out a full year after, was I believe $40, so you had to buy it. It didn't come with Uncharted 4. So there are some options here. Now again, I know people are going to obviously everybody has their own opinion on The Last of Us Part 2. That's totally cool. But for this video, I'm going to try to knock all of that talk out. I'm not going to really discuss how I feel about it, but I want to talk about some things they could do. To me, the game definitely, well, I'll say this, the game absolutely left open things, both at the end, in the middle, towards like the last third. There were, in my opinion, there were 3 big ones that I think they left open almost on purpose to give a DLC if they want to. Now, how will that affect The Last of Us 3? How would that affect a brand new game that Naughty Dog's working? We'll have to see if it even ends up happening, but here's my ideas, okay? The one I would want the least amount, okay, but the one that I do think is definitely possible is Abby and Lev. So Abby and Lev, and this I guess is spoilers, okay, so turn away now, but obviously Abby and Lev, well, firstly, Abby's not very, the most popular character on the internet, but let's just, again, we're going to try to ignore that. Abby and Lev obviously got freed by Ellie. Ellie let them go at the very end, and then when you beat the game, the picture actually is the boat docked at the place that the Fireflies said they kind of reconvening, okay, the new Firefly base. Now, I know maybe some people would be slightly confused about the whole radio talk and then Abby getting, attacked right after, like, were those the same people? Those were Fireflies. Those were actually Fireflies on the radio, and that base does exist. I mean, again, I guess, do I have any massive facts? Well, I guess just based off of literally the ending of the game. So again, when you beat the game and you go to the main menu screen, it's now the boat docked at the place that the Fireflies said they were reconvening. So that, in my opinion, is heavily hinting at that Abby and Lev got there, okay, without saying it, without really going into it. That is the way of them showing it. Now, they could do one of 2 things. One, they could have the DLC simply kind of fill in that gap to get us to understand why that is the end graphic of The Last of Us, right? Or you could even look at it as it is a DLC to get Abby and Lev there, and then to basically kick off 3. Because I'm going to talk about my predictions or my ideas for The Last of Us 3 tomorrow. That's going to be tomorrow's video. But I really think Abby and Lev being at the new Firefly base, maybe the possibility for a cure there, like kind of going back to the themes of the first game, I think that's very possible. If you did the DLC, you could get that. You could actually get us almost to the beginning of The Last of Us Part 3 if they would want to do that. Besides that, though, it is just something you could do. I mean, it's got the 2 characters. We know they like to do like duo teams, right? It's got the 2 characters. We don't really know what happens to them, but again, like the end graphic kind of shows it. So I think it's definitely possible. Is it something I would like? Listen, if they did a DLC, an entire DLC, a $40, 10-hour DLC with Abby and Lev came out like next year, I don't know how they would go over. I actually think they would kind of be mocking a lot of people. And in reality, again, whether you're for this game or against this game, I just don't know how that would sell. I feel like that would kind of be pretty polarizing and almost polarizing on purpose. You know what I mean? If they did The Last of Us 3, you play as Abby and Lev, that's kind of assumed. And then obviously you play as Ellie. That would kind of be assumed. Obviously people would be upset. Maybe people wouldn't buy it. But at least you'd kind of, I don't know who would go into The Last of Us 3 not expecting to play as Abby again. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see if they would choose that. I just feel like that would make a lot of people mad. And ultimately, and again, in my opinion, I do have 2 better ones. The second one is Tommy. Tommy obviously was in Seattle with you doing a completely different set of things. Now, you go through different areas and you say, man, Tommy did this. And then at some points you find out that certain areas areas that maybe you thought were him actually weren't him, right? There were different groups. So Tommy was around. Tommy was doing different things. Obviously, Ellie, told Dina about the whole Joel strategy of like having two people do the thing on the map, stuff like that. So we know Tommy did that. And then obviously it kind of concludes with Tommy sniping Manny and Abby, right? And you get them having to get close to him. And eventually, I mean, Tommy almost had them. Tommy almost had Abby, but obviously Yara got in the way, and then Tommy was pushed off, and then he made his way to Jesse. We technically don't even know how he got to Jesse, so that is something they could explain. And also, again, Tommy was in Seattle for that entire time as well. It's just he was always in a different place. He was always having his own scenes. I like the idea just because it seems like Tommy was doing so many different things, right? That would maybe be fun. It would be different to kind of play as a character we never got to play as before, right? Maybe not that many people even want to play as him, but he's definitely a different character. I just think, and again, maybe, I don't know, because like I was going to say, because Left Behind really told the story that was glossed over in The Last of Us. That's kind of what made it special, like to me, is we got references to what Ellie was talking about, different things kind of lined up. I mean, the idea with Tommy is it is succinct. It is, he's doing things that's taking place during events of other things, and things will line up, and there's a nice beginning to it, right? Where Tommy leaves, so he leaves like a day ahead of you, and then obviously there's the ending where Tommy meets back up with you, okay? And then obviously he gets attacked by Abby. So you have a conclusion, and you have a beginning, and you have him doing his own set of things. I think that would work. I also just don't know if maybe it would be too like quote unquote easy. You know what I mean? If it was like too obvious, and not even that, if there's not enough like depth. Now again, say what you want about the story, like if it was like kind of lazy or whatever you want to say, but I just feel like because we kind of already know what he's going to be doing, and I don't know, does he do all that much? He's not really doing all that much that we can think of in his own timeline in Seattle. You know what I mean? So I just don't know if they'd be able to make it all that interesting, honestly. Okay, I don't like Abby. I don't like her. I think there's people that don't like her more than me, but I feel like there'd actually be more storytelling possibilities with character growth and depth and all these different things. I think there would be more of that with Abby and Lev doing that pitch that I just had over a Tommy thing. You know what I mean? It's difficult. I wouldn't say no to a Tommy thing. I think it would be cool and different, kind of unexpected. And I really do think they left it open for that possibility, because it's like, man, he's doing all these things, but he's never, like, where is he and all that stuff. Very easily, you could tell the story of what he's doing. I just don't know if that would kind of be too boring. You know what I mean? Final thing. The final thing is Ellie. Let's go back to Ellie. Ellie, in my opinion, had easily Ashley Johnson did phenomenal. I think Ellie, a lot of her scenes, in fact, all of them, I think were very well acted. I completely bought in to basically all of the Ellie stuff throughout the entire game. Okay, I really, especially like the first half of the game, I think is actually super, super amazing. Give us back Ellie, right? So what they could do there, obviously, is, her track from Jackson to Santa Barbara took a lot of months to do that. Now, I don't know if there's specifically any months like actually mentioned, but it took multiple months to get there, and the game literally skips over it like it's not like it took her a day. Only it took her actually several months. And I guess now I didn't do this. I saw this online in an article somewhere that it said like if you look at her journal, she talks a little bit about the events that happened, mainly that she went through Las Vegas, and that was heavily infected, and she just barely got out of there. So it was kind of like a close call, right? That would be very, very cool. Now, again, it's taking place within a few months. You know where she came from. You know the ending. You know that she's going to get to Santa Barbara, that you're going to do the last hour and a half of the game, right? And that you'll fight Abby. So, again, you have a beginning. You have a conclusion. You're only kind of tackling the middle of it. It'll be interesting, and I guess I'll finish this part, and I'll say what I was going to say after that. That would be kind of cool. I feel like that one would be my favorite, playing as Ellie. I mean, who's going to really say no to that one, right? At least compared to the other ones. I think I'd absolutely sign up to play as Ellie again. It would be pretty heavily infected. I don't know how many humans would be involved. But again, it would be a self-contained thing, but you know where it's ending. Okay, so again, even with that one, I don't know how much you could do. However, I will say this. It is possible with something like that you could tie in more of the like PTSD that she has with Joel. I adored when she's letting in like the sheep or whatever into the barn, and then she has like the flash and she freaks out and she's crying. I think that was very, very powerful, and that was more powerful than any flashback they did for Abby to try and get you to care about her. I loved that scene because I really felt like, man, it is haunting her, it is hurting, it's literally hurting and tearing away at her, and it's been doing it probably for months. Now, again, they say that it didn't happen, like Dina said, it's been a while since that's happened, but I'm sure it's happened before, okay? So that was very powerful, and imagine if it came back, right, where now you're going through Las Vegas and you're starting to have visions, or you're having just PTSD where you keep seeing Joel, and in that way, you can really, again, I think you can relate more to the idea of the very ending where it's like, you kind of, like, you can see why Ellie would leave Abby alone. It's just like, all right, go your own ways, like, you've lost everything, you're both absolutely destroyed already, why, attack each other again? But then, when Ellie's putting the stuff in the boat and she sees Joel basically dead, she's like, I have to do this. I actually really like, again, say what you want about her letting Abby live, and I have opinions on that too, but I love that idea, what happened. I really actually do love the execution of that, because it's like, you kind of understand why she would let her go, but then she sees Joel and it's like, dang it, like, she's going to have to do this, and this is not going to go well. They're both already beat up. So basically, again, taking that into consideration, can we have that if they did a DLC with Ellie in just a few months before she gets to Abby again, but after she's kind of back, right? She's thinking about Joel. That's why she's going to Santa Barbara. That would be pretty cool. So I think it would have depth to it, right? It wouldn't just be a very like flatline thing. It would have depth because not only would she be going through this, maybe she can kind of be thinking, is it worth it going after Abby? But then she thinks of Joel and she's like, yeah, it really is. And you can kind of see maybe that fight that she's going through in her own head. So I think that would be pretty solid. The final thing, to wrap this up, I'll say this. All three of these, again, are kind of, they're self-contained, but they're really not all that much. The thing that I actually did, I actually really loved Uncharted Lost Legacy. Did I think it was better than, like, 2, 3, and 4? No. I actually think some parts were a lot better than, like, 1, though, or Golden Abyss, right? But the thing I did like about it is it was definitely self-contained. Now, the fact that it took place after Uncharted 4, and obviously it had Sam in it, but it took place after, and they could do whatever they wanted, I think that helped it out. The thing with The Last of Us, I mean, again, The Last of Us, like the first game, what they did with Left Behind with, doing basically the lead up, because we know it happens like 3 weeks before the event. So you have that happening, but you know where it's ending. And I guess you don't technically know where it began, right? But it was kind of self-contained, but not exactly. It wasn't as alone or separate as Lost Legacy. All three of the things I pitched in this video, all three of them, you know the beginning and you know where it ends. And I feel like that kind of would hurt. No matter what you choose, I feel like that would kind of hurt it because you know where you're going and you know where you began. It's literally just a story in between. You know what I mean? It kind of feels like filler because you could even look at it in a reverse way where they purposely left it out of The Last of Us Part 2 because they didn't want to tell. You know what I mean? Like, you could look at it as, well, they left it open for DLC, or you could just say that they didn't feel like doing it because it would be too much work, or it's just not worth it. It doesn't really fit in with the themes of the game. You know what I mean? So it could be that reasoning as well. They could do something completely different. And again, I think the Abby one actually has the most potential for being self-contained, where again, I guess based off the ending, that she'll get there, but you don't know how. You don't know how long it'll take. You don't know what she's going to find and do when she gets there. That would be the best one, thinking like that. Would it be the best one because you play as her? Absolutely not. But it'll be interesting. I'm not even completely sold on them having DLC. I'd put it like 50-50. I don't think I'm leaning, honestly, either way. In fact, if you had to force me to answer, I would say they probably won't do DLC. That's just my opinion. But we'll have to see if they do it, and we'll have to see what they end up picking for it. So, guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Which DLC would you choose? Any of the three that I mentioned? Or would you choose maybe a brand new one? I'm sure there's more things. You could even do something in between 1 and 2. You could do something with Joel and Ellie, like a flashback. Like, I'm sure there's stuff you could definitely think of, and you guys honestly do think of really, really good ideas. So let me know in the comments below your thoughts on what DLC they could choose. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, have that bell icon turned on so you know when these videos go up. And again, I'm going to have another video tomorrow. We'll be talking about The Last of Us 3, any ideas I have for that, kind of the same as something like this video, okay? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.